Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the last days. My name's Laura-Lynn Thompson, and it is a pleasure to be with you today. I've already had an incredible day, had a wonderful visit for lunch with a friend from back east. She's from Ontario over there, and we know what's happening in Ontario, don't we? Our prime minister is being grilled. We hope he's being grilled about some of the measures that he put in place in Canada. Um, so Cody Kuntz is going to join us in a little bit after my first guest to maybe give us a rundown because he's there. And some of you may know Cody. He's sort of this junior kid that goes wherever the action in Canada is happening and seems to capture it on video or give us the lowdown on what's happening. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm kind of hoping that we get to the bottom of it. As we've recently discovered, I think Keith Wilson from the Justice Institute was stating that when he got to cross-examine some of the people that made big decisions for the lockdowns that we went through, the imprisonment of some of our pastors. Everybody knows about Artur Pawlowski, what he's been through, and he wasn't the only one. Several pastors in Canada facing prison time for standing up for the church to be opened. Now, in hindsight, everyone, as we're understanding all of the ramifications of what we've been through in the last 2 years, some things are becoming very clear. It was interesting that Bill Gates the other day on a clip that I saw said, well, he didn't know that it would be more like a flu than a pandemic. Well, great. But we acted on false information and we did a lot of things that were harmful to our society. And those have been implemented. And now the prime minister perhaps needs to sort of answer to what took place. I was there in Ottawa when the rubber bullets were shot into the crowd, beanie bags to the face of people. We were there when a peaceful, unarmed group that never broke one window, to my knowledge, that never looted, pillaged, or burned, or hurt anyone. We were fired on, and an Emergencies Act was initiated in Canada. And you want to really ask a few important questions, like the lady did yesterday in that clip we showed, where you say, was everything done that could be done before you enact an Emergencies Act that literally straps the entire country, not just the city of Ottawa, but the entire country is put into an emergency? For what? When there's more deaths in 2022 than 2020, what does that tell you? It's fascinating, isn't it? Well, a couple things I want to show you. Let's look at Brendan Miller, legal counsel for the Freedom Convoy organizers. He has taken the stand, and this is an interesting clip.
Sort of everyone's given an overview of the theory of their case. It is our view that there was no justification whatsoever to invoke the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act requires several things. One, it could be invoked due to espionage and sabotage. Are you going to hear any evidence about espionage and sabotage? The answer to that is no. Two, it could be invoked on the basis of clandestine or deceptive foreign influence, or foreign influence that involves a threat to a person. Are you going to hear evidence about that? The answer to that is no. It also could be invoked on the basis of threats or use of acts of serious violence against persons or property. Are you going to hear evidence of violence against persons or property? The answer is no. Lastly, it can also be invoked if there is a group or persons trying to destroy or overthrow by violence the system of government of Canada. Are you going to hear evidence about individuals trying to do that? The answer is no. And the answer is that there was no reasonable and probable grounds to invoke the Emergencies Act, and that the government exceeded their jurisdiction both constitutionally and legislatively, in doing so. Thank you.
Well, here, but here's the next guy. This is an Ottawa police rep talking about how it was indeed actually an occupation. And here's how he puts it.
All of the Ottawa Police Service officers and all of their partners, you will hear, work tirelessly and professionally. And that integrated response by the police, led by the Ottawa Police Service and its partners, brought what had started as a protest, but become an illegal occupation, to a successful resolution. The Ottawa Police Service recognizes the impact upon the residents and businesses in the city from the convoy, and that it was significant. What none of the intelligence predicted in the very brief period of time prior to the convoy's arrival was the level of community violence and social trauma that was inflicted upon the city and its residents. As the demonstration came to an end, Chief Bell told the Ottawa Police Services Board that there will be lessons to be learned to make sure the events of the past are not repeated. You will hear that changes have been made to how the Ottawa Police Service handles events like this, and lessons have been learned. And the Ottawa Police Service welcomes the opportunity to learn more through this process as it works to rebuild public trust.
A complete blazing liar. That's what you just saw. What happened in Ottawa, which I have captured on hours and hours and hours of visual, is peace-loving, patriotic Canadians, unarmed, flying flags, asking that they would have bodily autonomy and not lose their jobs for not getting a vaccination. Many of them already vaccinated, but saying, listen, you can't be forcing this onto an entire population and basically bully a country. That's not a democracy. The only violence came from the police and those guys. We don't even know where they were from. Were they the French army? Some people say UN soldiers. We don't know. They didn't have names. They didn't have badges. They just looked super mean. And I asked them, when I was there in Ottawa, to their faces, how many boosters until you're on our side? Because if a government can force you to get 2, Trudeau has already purchased enough for 10 per person. I ask you, do any of us want to be under a tyrannical government that forces any kind of medicine procedure? Is that okay? What's your limit? Some of us say none. Some of you out there say, well, maybe I'll take 5. I'll take 2 plus 3 boosters, like my doctor. On the 6th shot that you're being forced to take, then are we on the same side? This is what we've had to face in Canada. Now, AOC down in the States, always good for a little bit of a giggle. She gets shouted down at a town hall event by her own constituents, and this is interesting.
Congresswoman, none of this matters unless there's a nuclear war, which you voted to send arms and weapons to Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard, she's left the Democratic Party because there are a bunch of war hawks. Okay? You originally voted, you ran as an outsider, yet you've been voting to start this war in Ukraine. You're voting to start a thermonuclear war with Russia and China. Why are you playing with the lives of American citizens? You're playing with our lives.
There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist Where are you against the war mobilization? He's telling the right truth. You have done nothing. Tulsi Gabbard has shown guts where you've shown cowardice. I believed in you, and you became the very thing you sought to fight against. That's what you've become. You are the establishment, and you are the reason why everybody will end up in a nuclear war unless you choose to stand up right now and denounce the Democratic Party. Will you do that? Yes or no? Okay, simple. Are you going to stop nuclear war? Yes or no? There is no line, because this is bullshit. None of this matters if we're all dead. None of it. You know that. Then let's take it up right now, because this is the only thing that matters. This is the only thing that matters right now. We could be in a nuclear war at any minute, and you continue to fund it. That's what's going on. Why not right now? You're the liar here. Nobody has held you accountable. That's what's happening. And it is time for you to stand up and realize that what you've been saying has been lies. Let your conscience come through for once.
Did you hear her? Well, because you are being rude, she's saying. Rude. Oh man, people are getting upset these days. One more clip before we go to our esteemed guest today. Parents at Encinitas School, am I saying that right? Encinitas School Board meeting speaking out against family-friendly drag shows for kids. I mean, aren't they all family-friendly? Take a look.
I just want to know what it is that makes a drag show family-friendly, because if you follow it to its logical conclusion, you can slap family-friendly titles on anything. You can have family-friendly gentlemen's clubs, family-friendly strip shows, family-friendly 50 Shades of Grey read-alouds. Will you approve my flyer if I want to host an all the sex secrets of the Kama Sutra for kids and families if it's family-friendly? That's my question.
Wow.
What is it about a grown man? And I honestly, sincerely, as a woman, mean this. What is it about a grown man costumed in a sparkly bra with augmented boobs busting out, a leather miniskirt barely covering his twerking ass with tuck tape on his front while spreading his fish-netted legs as he writhes on the ground, grinding his groin next to a minor? Family-friendly. You owe us an answer.
No.
And you know, you don't get to hide by just taking something down off Peachtree and calling it a day. You owe an explanation and an apology to every parent. Listen, you all got caught with your sparkly panties down. And while we have a culture that has a massive problem with child porn, with sex trafficking, you, a little school district board of adults, made the decision to feature an event to hypersexualize young children. Do you want to know that the word that defines that? It's groomer. You all played the activist pimp for an Align Surgical Center and for a 21 plus gay bar. It makes you groomers and activist pimps, and we won't have those sitting on a school board who oversees the education of our children. You all stepped out of line. You should be ashamed. There's nothing loving. There's nothing. Let's unite and include, because the logical conclusion of that is you end up in diabolical evil. There are boundaries, and you don't slap family-friendly titles on stuff to cover your ass.
Oh, well, that is a firecracker mother. That is a mama bear. Why can't we all speak out like that? Why have so many Canadian parents and maybe American parents, why have they been so silent while they're teaching our kids all of this nonsense, all this unscientific gender ideology, trying to take the identity of your young man, of your young woman that you gave birth to, these beautiful children, and we've got these people sexualizing them, and we just, we don't know what to say. Like, we've got to get a real backbone here. Because what is going on in our world? Now, y'all know that my dad passed away about a year ago, and I love to read from his Bible because my father, this Bible, it is it's got torn pages. It is from cover to cover, marked up in different colors of ink. And I opened it up today. And in Jeremiah 6, verse 14, this is what my dad had underlined. It's so precious to my heart. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Now, the context of this verse is where God is saying, you might be able to salve the pain once in a while by saying, oh, it's peace. Everything's fine. Oh, we'll get through this. I mean, peace, peace, everyone. Yeah, sure. You know, it looks like we're going into nuclear war and our kids are being over sexualized. We got pedophiles running the schools, but peace, peace. And you bring healing slightly because everybody wants to hear that. But there is no peace. God wants us to speak the truth. And our guest today, Pastor Walter Moss, he is a fighter. And he has been fighting against abortion in Ohio, where he was born I don't know if I'm allowed to say his age, but he's been in the ministry well over 40 years. And he's written a book, and I just like to welcome him to the show. He is he's strong. And Pastor Walter, I just thank you for tackling one of the most difficult topics that there is, because everyone's afraid to actually speak out against abortion, lest you get attacked, even on social media.
Right, right. But
Welcome.
hey, thank you. And I want I want to get that with that lady in San Francisco. That was awesome.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, because my wife spoke yesterday in Columbus, Ohio at our state school board meeting dealing with the very same thing. She was the speaker number 88 out of 90. She stayed from 8 in the morning till 6 p.m. so that she could speak for 3 minutes against that spirit of them wanting to bring all this transgender stuff into our school system in Ohio. And what they're trying to do is take the rights away from parents. And so my wife went and spoke out along with others. And so that was right on time. And thank you for that. And
That's
thank you for all you do.
Thank you to your wife for standing up, for being one of the few that will speak. We sure do need that, Pastor Walter. What people have done is they've decided that it's easier to just, have peace at any cost and not, battle. And if you could tell me a bit about how you decided that you would actually be so involved in this pro-life movement. And I'm sure glad to hear that you're also fighting the gender nonsense that's going on across North America.
Oh, definitely, because all evil is tied together. All evil is tied together. And, I use this passage in Hebrews 13:3. Remember them that are in bonds as bound with them, and them which suffer adversity as being yourselves also in the body. And babies in the womb. I was a baby in the womb once. Amen. 68 years ago. And God, and I had a mother who raised 4 of us, a godly woman. And so I'm here today. But God has called me and my wife, and our ministry is to minister to people who are going into abortuaries, to tell them don't kill that baby, and to intercede for the unborn across this land and the whole wide world.
Yes. So I discovered a few years back that whenever I had a healthy Facebook page, and I would consider that I had many sort of more Christian followers, but quite a few, a number of followers. I have almost 80,000 followers on my one page. And actually, I told everybody that it got eliminated. Well, that a whole bunch of followers were taken yesterday. It seemed to show on Facebook that I had 9,000 followers. And I'm like, I thought I had 40,000 more, but they're back today. It's like 76,000 followers. I'm like, thank God, I don't know what happened, but they're back.
Amen.
But, Pastor Walter, when I would put up something about saving babies, the hate that would come back as if maybe I was talking about killing baby seals. That is the level of angst and anger towards me for wanting to save a baby.
Oh, yes. Well, in Ohio, we have a heartbeat bill. And when Roe fell, um, a couple abortion clinics were about to close. And then last month, a, a county judge, said that it might be in the Ohio Constitution that a woman has a right. He said it might be. And he's holding up our heartbeat bill. And the only reason he's doing this is because now the abortion areas were going to close. Now they can stay open because they're allowed to kill larger babies and it's all about the money, and they can continue to make money. So now instead of leaving the state, at least 3 of them can now stay open right now. It's about money. It's about killing these babies. Killing a baby brings in a lot of money.
Candace Owens talks about this and about Planned Parenthood, about the
Yes,
eugenics, about the
yes,
fact that they like to set up in Black neighborhoods and
right,
cater to imagine how many more African Americans, millions, would be in North America if
right,
they didn't have these Planned Parenthood clinics setting up
right.
in all of these places. These people do not value life or our God-given destinies.
Well, I want to read this quote from my book. Abortion has killed more than 22 million blacks in less than 50 years. That is more than the entire black population in 1960 America. uh, Quoted by my friend Catherine Davis in 2021. And that's so true. Uh, and I believe it's all a part of that whole thing about the population. We got to reduce the population, so we deal with it on the end with the babies. And then these last 3 years, they brought in the COVID lie, so we can get rid of older people and people, period, in between, to get those numbers down where they want them. But thank God for people like you to have this program and show, and others who stand up for righteousness and for the kingdom of God.
So what made you get so heavily into this that you would actually write a book and dedicate so much time to this cause?
Well, it was God really convicted my heart when I maybe about 15 years ago. And in the 80s, I was a founder of one of the largest pregnancy centers in the United States. It's the second or third largest now. And over the years, you kind of get away from that, and I did. And then one day, somebody challenged me and my wife and said, "Have you all looked at statistics lately of what's going on in abortion in America and in the Black community?" And we said no. And we looked, and I couldn't believe, just like what I just read, I couldn't believe that African Americans make up 13% of the population, and we're having about 40% of the abortions, and it's genocide, and we're killing ourselves. And you talk about power. How much more power would we have as a people if we would have let these babies live? And how many more people would we have in these United States and in Canada if we would just let these babies live as God intended for them?
Amen.
So it's been a God call, and that's why we do what we do.
I really, really appreciate that, because have you experienced some hate coming towards you as you've made this stand?
Well, I have, but see, I'm a former football player. I played high school, and I was a star in high school and got a football scholarship to Ohio University. And so people don't talk to me a lot, but they'll go after my wife or friends.
Right, you're
But
too
for
big.
some reason, they don't come to me and tell me anything personally. But I get it. I understand, because I usually have opportunities to speak at different churches. And when we really started this book and put this book out there, some of those invitations started to dry up. And I understand, but we continue to fight. Today, I was standing in front of Planned Parenthood, and we just continue to fight. And you know what? I want to thank God. You have a wonderful lady there in Canada named Mary Wagner. And I
Yes.
want to thank God for her, because she has been an example to many of us here in the US and in the pro-life movement. And 2 years ago, I was in St. Louis at a Red Rose Rescue, their first conference. And we had Mary Wagner on the telephone to talk to us. And I just want to say she's such an inspiration. And to all you pro-lifers there in Canada, don't back up, don't give up, keep the courage, and we're praying for you all.
Well, Mary Wagner, for anybody that doesn't know her, I mean, she has gone to prison over and over and
Yes,
over again for peaceful
yes,
protests, for just
yes,
you know, sort of breaking the bubble that they might put around
yes,
a facility or
yeah,
whatever. She just peacefully does it and continues
yeah,
to spend her life in pursuit of
yeah.
saving and rescuing the children.
And you know,
Amazing.
Marilyn, it's happening now.
Yeah.
We've had pro-life arrested. Uh, and a friend of mine from Michigan, she was just arrested because they were saying that they're blocking the entrances of abortuaries. And those are lies. I've been with these groups. They were in Ohio a year ago. And I went with them. I was outside and nobody blocks anything. That's a lie.
So what do you tell people that feel that this is the right of a woman to choose? That, we are saying now, my body, my choice. If we don't want to, let's say, take a vaccine, we might say that. So
Right.
how do we explain all of this to the crowd that just wants every woman to have this right?
Well, again, it's a lie that they're believing in, and it's not a clump of cells. That baby, you were that baby at one time. When you were in your mother's womb, when you were just an embryo, you had the beginnings of 10 fingers and 10 toes, and it's a godly. It has to be the perspective of a human life, and it's God that gave that life, and so nobody has a right to take that life. And God said, do not kill. And so I try to reach out to the person's humanity because we all were that baby in the womb at one time or another in our lifetime.
I really like that picture that you have on your book. Are you able to hold that up?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That is really so beautiful. Look at that little tiny precious baby. So
Yes.
precious. Yeah. So little.
Yes.
I guess one of the things, when you say my body, my choice, I mean, that baby's body is their body.
That's right. And
It's
that's
not the
what
mom's
God has
body.
said.
Yeah.
That's right. In Jeremiah, God said, I knew you when you was in your mother's womb. So that baby is totally separate human being. And the body is just that. It's a body. And that's how God used us. Thank God he used Mary to bring Jesus in. Two separate
Yes.
bodies.
Yes.
Amen.
And so many people, there's all kinds of stories. A single mom. I even heard a mom doing an interview. She had been raped and she
Yeah.
chose to keep the baby. And this young man was amazing and the love of her
Amen.
life.
Amen.
And she had made a really difficult decision to just trust the Lord and get through that very hard thing. And then there's been other stories like single moms or whatever. It would be way easier financially. But then they have this child. This child grows up to be some kind of incredible singer, like a,
Or athlete.
Right. Or an athlete
Yeah.
or something like that. I mean, you just don't know the destiny that God
Yeah.
has imprinted into the life of that baby. And then you make a
Yes.
decision in a rash moment. And I'm sure that you've met a lot of women that have had that deep regret after making a rash
Oh,
decision.
a lot of women. I've seen women in their 70s who are working at the crisis pregnancy center now because a few years back they realized what they did was wrong, and through their repentance and their heart, they wanted to give themselves and working to something that would bring forth life, and they volunteer at the pregnancy centers. And also last year in the U.S. football Super Bowl, a young man that was playing in the game, his mother was pregnant in Cleveland, Ohio, and was told by family he should abort that baby. And she said no. And she would live at a home that kept women who were pregnant. and that boy grew up to be a football star. And last year in the Super Bowl, he played, and that would have been a young man that would have been there if she would have followed what everybody was saying. You need to get rid of that baby. And, I thank God for my mom. She raised 4 of us. I didn't know we were poor until I left and went to college, but she raised 4 of us. And so I don't agree with that philosophy that you can't afford. God has given us everything that we need on this earth, and he will make a way for however many babies that will come forth in whatever family.
Yes. And there has been somebody recently that said that 18, as I traveled through the United States of America, I couldn't believe how many pro-life signs are down there. And I just think that just invokes the blessing of God on America in a way that we don't necessarily see as much here in Canada. We have not one law that governs any abortion in Canada. You can have an abortion right up till the baby literally takes its breath. So even in the birth canal, we have no laws at all. But I heard somebody saying that, there's nothing to that heartbeat, that at day 18, you can
That's
see
right.
the heartbeat.
That's
So
right.
why are they dispelling that?
Because they want to believe something that's evil so they can continue to do what they do. And, they're going to have to answer to God. Well, and that's the thing. People don't believe they're going to have to answer, but you're going to have to answer, because that baby was just like the certain person that says, go and kill another baby. And I always say this: why don't you all want to go and trade places with those babies in the womb that are getting ready to be aborted? You would want to change places and be killed. And so, we made it political instead of moral and spiritual. It's a spiritual matter. And the reason that people do this is because our hearts, man's heart, has become hardened toward God.
Yes, sir. What would you say, in closing, what would you say to somebody who's watching right now and is considering what they need to do because they have an unplanned pregnancy that they're not sure how to navigate it all? What would you say to them?
I would just say, hey, there are so many people out there that want to adopt a baby. There are so many people out there that will help you. There are so many people out there that will love you and be there for you. And I would say, just like you had a chance to live, give that baby an opportunity to live also. It's God's will.
Amen. And if people want to contact you to see, what resources are out there, is that the email that they should do it, that we've been
Yes.
putting the graphic?
Yeah, you can email me. I'll send you my book free. I'll send you however many books you want, and we'll pray for you and love on you, and we'll send you in my book. There's informational sources there's even international sources that we can get you. We're just here to help not only the baby, but the woman and the man. We will help you to get through this. If it's a crisis for you, we will help you.
I really love that. Pastor Walter Moss from Ohio, thank you very much for your service. And would you just tell your wife that I think she's my kind of lady? And I just
Hey, I
appreciate that
will.
she's at the school fighting for the kids
Oh,
and
yes.
waiting all
Yeah.
day. May God
Yeah.
bless her ever so
Yeah. Thank
incredibly.
you. Thank
Yes.
you. And Marilyn, thank you for what you and your husband do and your family. We thank God for you. We love you. And we look forward to when you come back and be with us again in Ohio.
In Ohio. All right. I look forward to it as well. Thank you, Pastor Walter. Take
You're
care and God
welcome.
bless.
God bless. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Wow, that is terrific. We are going to we're going to pivot to another topic, but man, I just love everything about that pastor. His spirit, the joy with which he speaks, the beauty of who he is. What a great life and a great service. How he spends his time. So important. It's important how we all spend our time. So my buddy, Cody Kuntz, has been spending his time today in Ottawa. Am I correct on that, Cody? We're going to have you come on. Are you truly there finding out what's going on with our prime? Your hair's grown since I last saw you, Cody.
It has.
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm well. So tell me,
Excellent.
are you there? Are you where this is all going down?
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in Ottawa, especially for the Emergencies Act inquiry, is what we're calling it. Many people are calling it. So they had a full day of, I think it was over 5 hours of people talking. They were bringing different people in. Some of the notes that I took is there is going to be 30 days of hearings. So there's going to be different people from the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, to Tamara Leach, to Chris Barber, to the Ottawa Police. Like, there's going to be different types of people from all backgrounds of life who kind of had a role in the Emergencies Act being, initiated, so to speak. So that is going to be interesting to hear from all the different people, especially Chrystia Freeland and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. It's going to be interesting to see what he has to say about why he thought it was necessary to use his special powers here. Also, another thing that I took note of was the Emergencies Act is not a trial. So a lot of people were saying, for a couple of months that, we're going to find out if everybody's guilty or if everybody's innocent from the Emergencies Act. And that's not the case. This is not a trial for the individuals such as Tamara Leach or Chris Barber or Pat King or the other ones who have been arrested. This is not a trial for them. This is not going to prove whether they are guilty or whether they are innocent. That is for a courtroom and each separate individual to have their trials for those cases. So whatever the outcome is from this, whether it was appropriate to pull the Emergencies Act or whether it wasn't, it's not going to prove whether or not the individuals are guilty or innocent, which I thought was interesting.
Right. So it's sort of more preliminary. We're trying to kind of get to the bottom of, well, what really happened. And I think a lot of people are in confusion about that because we played a couple of clips at the top of this show, and I probably should have saved them for now. But basically, people feel that the standard for an Emergencies Act to have been implemented was never reached. They could have done many different things. You were there. I saw you, Cody, when we were all in Ottawa. And I remember feeling sorry for you because I didn't think you had a warm enough coat or anything on. And I was like, what are we going to do? And you were just such a trooper. But we were all there. And we were peaceful. There was no guns. Did you see guns, Cody? A lot of love, right? A lot of singing of the national anthem, prayer gatherings, a lot of care and love for this country being shown. But no possible reason to invoke an Emergencies Act that allowed these pathetic soldiers to come in and start shooting people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So they're going to talk about the crowdfunding, which was a really big part of, the whole Freedom Convoy, the roles of what they call misinformation and disinformation, which they like to throw those words around, and some of the efforts of what the police do. And this is to hold people accountable and to try and figure out, what is happening, what happened in the past, present, and what they could do in the future to kind of change that so we don't really necessarily see this again. One of the challenges they like to throw out is the time. So they only have till February of 2023, and they don't think that's going to be enough time to speak to everybody to get all the relative information out. And they're already wanting to push it off, but we have legislative laws or whatever that make it so it can't be pushed off. That is their deadline, and they are not able to extend it. They were referring to residential schools and other things in the past where they have had something similar to this, where they have, it's taken them years to get a solid report, but their report has to be done by February of 2023. And I think, they must have had plenty of resources and reasons to pull it in the first place. So I really think that's a fair time for them to, I don't think they need any more than a year to give us a solid answer as to their reasoning behind pulling it.
Right. So, okay. So it's October, November, December, January, like put your heads together and come up with something. Now you were saying that this was, what building is this being held in?
So it's actually it's not at the courthouse. It's 2 buildings down from the Supreme Court of Canada to the left. It's at the Library and Arches, I think is how they say it, Archives building, in Ottawa
Okay.
on, I believe it's like
Archives.
Wellington Street or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many people are there?
There wasn't a whole lot. So there's actually over 250 media requests from over 34 media different news stations. So there's a lot of media that wants to be there, but there's only 20 seats for media. And then there's a room. The room wasn't full today, so I don't know how many people could really
I'm
fit
so
in there. But it's not a very
surprised.
big room. Yes, me as well. I really thought something so big it would be
Yeah.
full.
Did you see people like Rebel News, Kian Bexty?
So they are actually, so how the list works is there's 34 news organizations and there's only 20 that can go in at any given time. So Rebel News was not on, I don't believe they were on the list today. They are in the next set of a batch. Same with True North, Western Standard. Those ones did not able to attend as a media, I guess, so to speak, today.
Okay. And is it on tomorrow?
Yes, it is on tomorrow. It's on, I think, till middle of November. So they got a lot to speak about. There's going to be a lot of different groups from, like I said, the government, police, protesters, everybody from all walks of life are going to be here to kind of say what they thought about it. And this is the first time the Emergencies Act has been used in 34 years.
Oh.
So we've had a lot of things over the past 34 years that have kind of happened.
Yeah.
Some other protests that were a lot more violent, I will say, in Canada that have happened over that time. And I guess there was no need for it.
And one
just
of
for
the
some
points,
truckers to go to Ottawa.
Right. One of the points that had been made as well is, well, maybe you have an Emergencies Act for a little area if you really feel you can pull it off, but then to just initiate it all across Canada. I mean, I think that the truckers, they represented sort of the power of numbers as well, because if you remember, like the video of those first few days in Ottawa, like that first, I was told there was over 2 million people, and I could see it. Like
It was crazy.
It was a sea of people. Any way you look down any road, you just couldn't even fathom how many people were there. And they had, a little thing flying around. What do you call those? They fly around
Drone.
A little drone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were getting all of that. Now, Cody, so you're saying that every single day for the next month or almost a month, people will be coming and testifying. And when will the PM be on?
So they don't, they have a whole list of, I think, over 65 people. And they're not going to call every single person on that, list that they want. But the JCCF was there, and I think we're all very familiar with the JCCF. They were on the ground for the protests, and their lawyers continue to be involved, and they are here to hold the government to account, is what they said. Citizens for Freedom is also there, and they're going to help with the Ambassador Bridge protest and blockade that they're also bringing in. So they're kind of lumping in everything that happened in Canada during that time into one thing, the Ambassador Bridge. I'm sure Coots as well. The Coots blockade will be talked about. And like the Democracy Fund was there, and they sent lawyers to Ottawa and to Windsor to provide demonstrators with legal information about their rights when protesting, as well as the limitations of those rights. And their objective is to uncover the truth on why the federal government involved the powers and how they use their powers. So there's a lot of different groups of people coming together from different angles to really get to the bottom and to get to the truth about this.
Well, I want to see the Prime Minister. Like, when's he up?
Hopefully we'll be there, and hopefully we'll be able to, they won't announce that one. They won't tell us what day, but we sent in our media request, and we're going to, so we're going to do whatever we can to speak to him, and hopefully get, an interview with him would be awesome, because we have some words for him, of course, and some questions. Laura-Lynn, we got a few questions. But when they
an
were
interview.
documenting, I thought this was quite interesting because you have been kind of going to some of the rallies for quite some time,
Yep.
since maybe the beginning of 2020. And they kind of documented all that. They documented the first protest happening in April of 2020. And, by July of 2020, there was protests happening all across Canada on the same day. They were coming synchronized. Then it kept getting worse and worse and worse, and more people were coming. And then there was 2021. We had big protests all across Canada. It didn't seem to worry them. The government didn't care to come and speak to the people. They didn't want to, ask, why are you guys protesting? We see these protests are getting bigger. We're standing back and we're watching, but we're just going to ticket you guys or arrest them. As we've seen, you got a couple tickets from rallies. So did I. So, they kept getting worse and worse and worse, so to speak, to the government. More people are coming out. There's a bigger movement happening. And then they didn't really care to speak to the people. They still didn't care to speak to the people. It came to the trucker convoy for them to finally be like, hey, we're going to put a stop to your guys protesting. When it was almost 2 years of full protesting, you would have think that the government could have came and spoke to the people, even last year or at the beginning of it, to see, like, what are you guys protesting? Why do you guys want to stop the mandates? Like, what is your reasoning behind this? But he chose not to do that. And even in 2022 with the trucker convoy, he still chose not to speak to the people. He chose to use his, magical powers to, run people over on horses and to tear gas people and to shoot them with rubber bullets. So
Yes. And
I
I
thought that
think
was quite
people would have
interesting.
they would have been happy to have some members of parliament, some conservative
Yeah.
party members could have invited a formal meeting, because what happened in the United States when the trucker convoy in Canada was done, my husband and I went to Washington, where we heard a whole bunch of truckers who had been inspired by the Canadian truckers were now also in a convoy to Washington. And what happened there is that Senator Ted Cruz and Ron Johnson absolutely agreed and invited them to come and to speak and to air their grievances on camera, of which I was a camera. And that was like, that just gave just some balance and peacefulness, to the whole process. And so you're right, that was never done. Trudeau just has maintained he wanted everyone vaccinated. Otherwise, you better not think that you can go on a plane or train, is basically what he said, and that you can sit next to people in a restaurant. Now that we're finding out that, of course, Pfizer did no tests to understand about the spreading, if you could still spread the virus with the shot, and then we find out, of course, that it didn't matter at all whether you were got your shot or not, you could still spread the virus. And so that really has eliminated a large portion of why they've done all of this, and that's literally been within the last couple of days. Do you think they'll be giving any medical updates on, on anything? I mean, this all happened, Cody, because
Yes.
truckers didn't want to be forced to get a shot that they didn't feel they needed in order
especially
to
when they're
do
in
their
their
work.
trucks by themselves. Yeah, they're in a truck all by themselves. They're crossing the border. They see very few people. Like, I mean, they're a trucker that they're in there by themselves. There was no need for that mandate, especially so late in the game, 2022, when this pandemic was in 2020 or even 2021, when they had the mandates everywhere else. Why didn't you just do it all at one time?
Yes.
They waited and waited and waited for the truckers. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see in the coming days what happens, especially when Prime Minister Trudeau gets up there and says what he has to say about why he, used his special powers. But, we're hoping this really doesn't happen again, and the truth comes out about it, because so many people's lives have been affected by this power.
Yes, they really have. So you were saying that one of the key things that they want to cover, just before I let you go here, but they want to cover the funds, like so the funding account, that's a big deal to them.
Yes, that's one of the big things that they were talking about is, because if it wasn't for the money, would all these people have gone to Ottawa
Of
I
course
think
they would
so.
have.
I think so. Absolutely. So, they're looking at it. Well, it was funded, and who was it funded by? The United States. A lot of people from the
The
United States supported the
Russians,
convoy.
Russian
Exactly.
collusion.
Who supported it? So they want to get to the bottom of that, and especially the freezing of the bank accounts. Over $20 million in trucker money was, seized, and we kind of know where it is, but they don't have access to it. The truckers don't have access to it. So that's the big thing that they want to get down to is, who is this funded by, and was it the money that was driving all these people to go to Ottawa and to do this and to, honk their horns and to, disrupt the businesses and to, tear down the walls of Parliament, whatever they're claiming. We know that for us, and I'm sure for you and many others, we didn't go there expecting to get any money because, for one, we didn't know what was happening with the Give, Send, Go and the GoFundMe. And second of all, it really had nothing to do with us. We were there for our own reasons.
Yeah,
We were
well,
done
I guess maybe
with
the
government
truckers' fuel, or
overreach.
to help, if they thought to help those that are
Yes.
fighting for our country. But it's just shocking to me that you can, I think that the original understanding that I have, Tamara Litch, she did a GoFundMe account to get her and her buddies to be able to support the
Yes,
truckers. And then it just kind of took off. I mean, how did she know? Right now,
exactly.
is she's going to be giving testimony?
Tamara Leach was there today, and I believe from a conversation, I'm sure she's going to be there every single day of
Yep.
the inquiry. So if you have any questions, I will for sure ask them and for her, and I'll send them your
Okay.
way. But
Hmm.
yeah, so she will be there, and she will for surely be one
Okay, Cody.
testifying.
So are you planning, how easy is it for someone to travel to Ottawa upon hearing your testimony that that the courtroom's not filled, and they go, well, hey, I'm going to go and go sit in on these. Can anybody get in?
Yes, it is open to the public. You just go down to the building, and they should let you right in. You shouldn't have any issues. If it's not full, if it wasn't full today, I would love to see it full, especially with it being such a big thing and
I'm
such a
surprised.
small building.
I thought it
But
would be standing room only and you can't get in and people would be disappointed, but that's not happening.
no, that's not happening. So hopefully that may change in the coming days as more people come, more people who are witnesses and who are doing
Man,
their
if I was
testimonies. But
within 200 miles of there, you couldn't keep me. I'm not prepared to do a long haul right now. Having said that, Cody, I'm kind of excited because I'm actually going to be heading that way for a tour in Southern Ontario and over into Nova Scotia. So I got to make it there. I have to.
You do. It'll probably still be going on all
Yeah.
of October and November for sure. So you
Right.
definitely have to make your stop there. I
Okay.
mean, this is a huge part of history in
Oh,
34
man.
years. Probably never in my lifetime have I seen this, and I probably never will again. And probably maybe not even in your lifetime you've
Yeah.
seen this happen. So
Even me.
even you. It's a big part of history, and I really think we should be there to watch it,
Yeah.
unfold, because
Cody,
it could really change the future.
well, I just think that, this is kind of like, you're such a neat person and you're so young, but you're very engaged and you're on the right side of things. And I just pray that the Lord will guide your steps and help you to be in the right place at the right time, and that you would be wise, Cody. Be always vigilant and careful. I always say in these situations, even when I was in Ottawa, I was listening for that voice of the Holy Spirit, like to let me know when not to go,
Yeah.
to not be in a place where harm would come to yourself. That would be important. So, but of course, we're thinking it's peaceful now, but the government seems to be able to try to fine or imprison. Look what's going on with the guys at Coots still. It's just shocking. I've had youth that
Yeah.
lived with us who would go out, rob a liquor store and beat someone up, and they'd be out that night.
Yes. No, the system is definitely has some issues. Even in the United States, they have issues in their justice system. So hopefully we can see some policy changes and some law changes because of this. But the Coots border is actually a little different. I have actually spoken to some people who have been kind of closer to the Coots, and they may be more guilty than we think. They're not as innocent as, we're all saying they're innocent, everybody's innocent. But from what I've heard from a bunch of different people, close to them, not close to them, there's a big story behind that. And they're kind of, from what I've heard, more guilty than innocent, versus what we've seen in Ottawa, where it was just kind of mischief and, honking your horns or breach of whatever the
singing "Oh Canada" too loud or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So the Coos thing did involve weapons and guns and stuff like that, which, I mean, if they needed to go there with the RCMP and do some kind of act, they could have. The RCMP was down there and was very peaceful, with hugging everybody, was, said thank you guys, and it was really good. So even with the weapons that happened at Coos, that was totally separate from Ottawa. That was like 3 provinces over.
Yeah.
Did not have anything to do with each other. The people in Ottawa would have left if they had the opportunity just to be heard and spoken to. But same with the Coots. I think they would have all left as well. But I think that's what they're kind of using, as the weapons and the guns to, I think that's what they're going to say is their reason was because there was weapons there. But I mean, that'll all come out in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I guess it'll need to. And I do know that, I guess, when you mistreat the people of a country, you can set off some reactions that are dangerous, because people are fighting for what they think is their very lives and their country, their freedom, democracy. It can really set off a series of things. Thank you so much, Cody. Will you please text me every day and let me know what's going on? And maybe we can have a few of these happen, maybe not every day, but if something important happens, just like you could give us a 2 to 3 day encapsulation of who spoke, what it was about, the feeling you got, how many people are attending, and saving my spot for when I get there. That'd be great.
Absolutely, I will. I'll take some video footage for you guys so you guys can see.
Are you allowed to have cameras in there or any recording devices, or no?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
You can. Yes, it is a public opening, and they want as many people to hear as possible. And we, me and Selena, we're going as media, and so we are able to record and tweet and do all that stuff. So I will for sure do whatever I can to get you some, and any interviews you want, if I'm able to get them, I will for surely
Thank
get
you,
them
Cody. And where can people follow you?
So they can follow me at Freedom Central Canada. I have me and Selena Paley. You'll see us on there, and we're going to cover and we're going to talk to as many people as we can, especially the people, because that's what's important down there.
Yeah.
And we're going to get some clips, and whatever you need, Laura-Lynn, I will help you out. And
I love
Freedom
that.
Central Canada
Thank you.
Facebook.
Okay, well, we're going to check out Freedom Central Canada. Is that .com?
Yeah, as well as we'll be on Facebook.
And on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I got 3 days to go and I'm back on Facebook. So all the people that are writing me asking if something's wrong. Yeah, I got all these people. Well, where'd you go? They think that I'm like, I've given up or I'm in a hovel or something.
Facebook has missed you.
Right. That's nice. Okay, Cody. God bless. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you really soon. Take good care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye, Laura-Lynn. Thanks
so
much.
Take care. Oh, that's fantastic. Isn't he adorable? So Laura Ingram on California's new medical misinformation law talks about how we, medical misinformation. Okay, so this is the law you're saying that we covered last week, in which they can take your license or whatever if you're doing misinformation. And who determines that? Okay, let's have a look.
Who decides what constitutes disinformation, given how much has changed from 2020 to today, just as it relates to COVID?
Well, according to this law, AB 2098, that Gavin Newsom signed into law recently, he does. His state medical board, which is run by a trial lawyer, does. It's not a panel of physicians. It's not a panel of peer-reviewed journal experts. It's not a panel of people who were elected by the citizens for this purpose. And it's certainly not a predefined list of medical facts that's been vetted against the literature. It's whatever they want it to be, and it can change. It's like having a speed limit that changes every day and isn't posted, and you just have to guess what it is. It's impossible to follow.
You know, I got taken off a platform, a social media platform. I won't say which one because they're probably listening. And a year later, I got reinstated because what I had said a year ago was now allowed to be said. So who is determining what's misinformation? And of course, you know, now we're allowed to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop and that ridiculous thing that's going on, where before, right, Mark Zuckerberg was saying, well, we were told by the CIA, or was it the FBI? FBI. We were told by the FBI, you know, that there's probably some disinformation coming down the pike. And so we want you to curtail it, right? Well, it wasn't disinformation. It was a laptop full of a lot of hanky panky, a lot of, you know, hookers and drugs going on, and some other very important information on the Biden family and their business dealings with people across the world that could put President Biden in a very compromised position. So now we're allowed to talk about that. Before we weren't. So you can get your platform taken down. So medical disinformation. So what we know now, like Pfizer just admitting that they had no idea whether it would cause, you know, whether the shot would stop the spread from person to person. They had no idea, but they were basically saying it's safe and effective and this will stop the spread. And Joe Biden absolutely said that. Now, if a doctor had come out at that time, and they most certainly did, and when people came out at that time and they said, there is absolutely no proof that this will stop the spread, you know, then all of a sudden that's medical disinformation, right? So as we're finding and, well, discovering and uncovering all the lies, then, you know, when will they not be able to label it disinformation? It's a big mess. So quick video before we go. Minnesota Rep Angie. No? Oh, okay. The web. Daily Mail UK, Pfizer's COVID Paxlovid can cause deadly blood clots, this study warns. So that's just the Paxlovid. Now this is a drug that, so I don't want to spread any misinformation because I am not a doctor and I don't play one on television. But I had a friend who wrote me and said, well, this is what they're prescribing and want to give to my husband. And I looked it all up and I'm like, well, I don't have a good feeling about it because where it's from and all of that. And now we have this being reported. So I hope that I'm not getting in any trouble, because who's deciding what's misinformation? Yesterday we didn't know this. Today we know. Now is it information rather than misinformation? I don't know. Minnesota Rep Angie in a funny, weird debate comment. So take a look.
I will never stop standing up for Big Pharma and standing against my constituents.
Thank you.
Yeah, say that again.
I will never stop standing up for Big Pharma and standing against my constituents.
Thank you.
I'm going to stand for Big Pharma because they're making all that big money. Who cares about my constituents who got me elected or whatever? All right. Super funny. So we have a still image, the Atlantic magazine story on, okay, so Muslims in Michigan are opposing teaching pornography to their children, and it being what? The evolution of white supremacy. Oh, okay. So the evolution of white, so these are these the white supremacists? Right. In Dearborn, Michigan, Muslim parents who, oh my goodness. Oh, shoot. I put my, oh, I can't read it because it's okay. Oh, there we go. Michigan Muslim parents who oppose teaching pornography to children become the new face of the far right. I love it. You know, they've had to start saying that the problematic group is no longer the racist because there's so many African Americans and Latinos now joining the Republican Party in record numbers. The Dems are just tanking. And so they can't keep calling all the Black people and Latinos racists. So now it's like the Christian nationalists, right? Christian nationalists. They already called Tanya Gaw that, a Christian nationalist. So we're all deciding that we embrace that. We are Christians who believe that our country is a wonderful national country, and we support God, country, and family. And that probably makes us racist and bigots and phobes of some kind. My name is Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson. My website is lauralynn.tv. I just want to say a very grateful thanks to your kindness for supporting this work. Thank you for taking the time to go to the website and make a donation. And I just appreciate you so very, very much. And it means a lot because, first of all, definitely supports the work that we do and helps us to keep being able to do it and also eat. But it also gives us emotional and spiritual support. We feel your prayers and we feel those arms that are linking with ours to do this work together, and that you're on our side and that we are like-minded and standing together to fight right now at this epic hour in history. So lauralynn.tv, there's a donation button there. You can easily do that. There's also an email, lauralynn@protonmail.com, and you can easily send me an email and talk to me about what's going on. You can do that. I did have a letter. Let me just see if I can. I'm not going to read this on the platform we're on today. It's a wonderful letter. Like, I printed it off and kept it so that I want to read this situation that this person's found themselves in, but maybe tomorrow or when we do another thing. Oh, I sure do love you guys. So I thank God that we are in this together. I was just thinking about a few things here. So in everything that that we're going through right now, when we talk about all of these very, very negative things, I want you to remember that even though, like the verse I read at the beginning of today was about when somebody says peace, peace, and there is no peace. And we don't want to be speaking ridiculousness where it's like, oh yeah, we're just, we're just having an, some sort of like everything's okay, but we're not understanding the times. I believe that we absolutely do have to understand the times. And Jesus told us that there was going to be these dark, dark days. And in fact, in Matthew 24, it basically says that unless the Lord shortened the days, there would be no one left. So for the sake of the elect, he will shorten the days. So that's really good news. But I'll tell you what, for the very first time in my life, knowing the Word of God, being raised as a Christian, for the very first time in my life, I'm like, I just want to be found faithful. That when he calls me, when my time is up on this earth, whether I live to be, well into my 90s, or hey, if the rapture comes and we're all gone, they'll just find our clothes in a clump on the floor, I guess, and say that we've all been taken by aliens. I don't know. Or, if I go at the appointed time, I just want my life to have been dedicated to doing the purpose and the will that God formed me in my mother's womb to do. When God made us, the Word of God actually says He knew us before we were formed in our mother's womb, and He had a plan. So as we see all of these things unfolding and they're a bit scary, the Bible says to look up because your redemption draws nigh. If all of these things are happening, it's because God's got a plan. And in Matthew 24, verse 45, it says, "Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the master has put in charge of the servants of his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns." It's good if God finds us doing what we're supposed to be doing when He returns. I want to be that person. Truly, I tell you, He will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, "My master, he's staying away a long time." And he then begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he is not aware of. And he will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I want to be found faithful, doing and sitting and standing and speaking and being in the very place that God wants me to be at this hour. Not being a coward, not being a liar, not being a thief, not being a gossip or a slanderer, but one who stands in righteousness before the Lord. And always remember, we're not faithful, but God is faithful, and His righteousness is our righteousness. I've loved being here with you. Thank you for being here with me. God bless. It's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.